So the spectrum obviously goes from basically severe, and then you have moderate, then you have mild, and everyone's going to have their own version of what they mean that a kiddo falls or adult falls under that category. And basically how it works is a person that would be considered severe would be a child or adult that really can't do much functioning on their own, meaning that, maybe they're permanently in diapers, they don't want to be touched, without the contact, no love, no hugging, no kissing. They really have to have full care to where they have to be, clothed, bathed. They're really a full care. That would be kind of the severe end. The moderate would be the kiddo that still has the meltdowns, still has kind of the fits, still has kind of like a much younger mentality. They may be 12, but they act like they're 4. But they still can do some things, and they still will have some verbal where they can still kind of say a few words and kind of at least get around, like pointing to food, dog, bath, things like that. And then you'd have high function, right? High function would be someone that you probably would not even notice if you didn't interact with them, maybe. Like in the grocery store line, they may seem normal, and you'd have to really be paying attention. You may notice that they do some weird quirks if you really were looking at them. They may not make eye contact the whole time. They may be looking down while they're talking to you. They may rock a little bit, like they naturally may have to. A lot of them, the sensory portion of them, they have to create movement to make themselves feel like they're balanced. So the world feels unbalanced, so they move to balance, to self-correct is why they do it. They may have some things where they may talk a little bit slower. They may have to process a little bit more. They may pause and look at you, and then they may respond. So there's things that you may notice, and that would be the higher function. And then you have, it's called Asperger's, which it used to be on the spectrum. It used to be all the way through, and then you had Asperger's. Now it's been separated from the spectrum, but still kind of the same thing. Even though they, medically have separated it, it's still categorized as, if you have Asperger's, you have autism. But Asperger's would be where there's a part of the brain that just ultra develops just that category, and therefore a bunch of the other categories do not. So for example, they may be able to tell you every dinosaur, every possible, where the bone goes, every name, where it was found. They'll tell you everything. But then you ask them how to work the washer or dryer, and they don't have a clue. They can't do a simple thing because their brain just can't wrap around this one thing. But there's a part that, and you can't really teach it, right? They're fixated and their brain works that way. It's just how it is. So those are kind of, the thing. But how you define what you know about autism is always based on somebody that you know, right? Someone always has a neighbor, a cousin. So when they think they know autism, it's only usually based on the person that they've met. And a lot of times they don't have a clue. So if they met a moderate, they just think all autistic people are the moderate. They don't know, like I'll have a lot of conversations with people. They're like, they're so sweet and they're so lovey and they're so smart. And that's true, there's a lot are. But then there's ones like my son, where my son is not. My son is moderate to low, but he also falls under high behaviorals. So my son has all sorts of behavioral problems where he can out of nowhere radically want to scratch, bite, scream, things like that. And his brain doesn't operate in that way. And some people don't even know that. They have no clue that there is a side to autism that can be very difficult, and from a behavioral standpoint, almost like they're tormented and they really are struggling to come out of their box to talk and communicate, and because they can't do that, they lash out because of it. So there's a lot of misunderstandings that there's such a far distance to the spectrum. It's not a little spectrum, it truly is a very, very wide spectrum. There's a joke or a saying that people say is, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism.